Cleveland Browns just did the 49ers a huge favor. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Quality Control. I'm your host, Grant Cohn. And the Niners are so interesting. We're going to be talking about Eddie D's judgment of their franchise, of his brother-in-law, of his nephew. He said something very interesting last night. I'm going to talk about how the Niners really missed an opportunity to be a dynasty. But every time it looks like they're just about at the end of the Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch era, where their bad decisions have caught up to them, finally. Something happens, presents itself to them, which gives them new life. And if they can just, it was Brock Purdy. It was Christian McCaffrey. Now it's Jim Schwartz. The Cleveland Browns could have hired him to be their head coach. He would have been a great head coach. Instead, they went with Todd Monken, who was the offensive coordinator in Baltimore. You can understand why. They have a young quarterback in Shedeur Sanders. They're probably going to draft another young quarterback. They need someone who can develop a quarterback, and I guess Todd Monken has some experience. He did a pretty good job with Lamar Jackson, although he was already developed, and he was a college coach. So they went with Monken. So Schwartz is upset, and now he's available. And I know he would be freaking perfect for the 49ers because he runs their system. He's the OG of their system. And before I talk about Schwartz, isn't it weird that Kyle Shanahan, you're a system coach, okay, you have your system on offense and you love it, but why are you so wedded to a defensive system? Why are you forcing every defensive coach to have the same system? Is there any other offensive coach in the league that you can think of that's that micromanaging of the side of the team he doesn't even control? Okay, that's enough of that. Jim Schwartz, he pretty much created the wide nine. He's much more aggressive than Robert Saleh, than what's his name? Oh yeah, Gus Bradley. He's a head coach. He probably should be the Cleveland Browns head coach right now. He had some success in Detroit as a head coach. Probably should get another chance. He's always been a great defensive coordinator. He's kind of like Vic Fangio. He has that kind of gravitas. And if the 49ers were to get Jim Schwartz, they just might win the Super Bowl. He's that good. He gives them everything they need. He might be an upgrade over Robert Saleh. He would fill in all of Kyle Shanahan's gaps and weaknesses. He's older than Kyle Shanahan. He's more experienced. He could maybe, disagree with Kyle sometimes, challenge Kyle, bring out the best in Kyle, and Kyle could bring out the best in him. Kyle's 2-9 in his career against Jim Schwartz. So, as Ryan Hensley pointed out on Twitter, this prevents, Schwartz going to the Cardinals and being someone the Niners have to face twice a year. So the Browns, there was a very real chance that the Niners weren't even going to get an opportunity to get Jim Schwartz, which is probably why they brought in Gus Bradley and made him assistant head coach and had him shadow Robert Saleh around. And the plan, most likely, is to hire Gus Bradley as the defensive coordinator and have him groom KJ Wright, and sort of have Bradley be Timu version of Saleh, and then KJ Wright can maybe be Timu version of D'Amico Ryans. Linebacker, same trajectory, path. Okay, maybe that works, but this is way better. And instead of trying to recreate something that worked 5-6 years ago with, lesser versions of the guys who are gone, just bring in an older coach who's going to be here for a while or not. Who cares, dude? Just, put it this way. Bring in the best coach available, and it's Jim Schwartz. And so it's such a no-brainer. I wonder if the 49ers will do it. That's my question. Do you think Jim Schwartz would want to coach for the 49ers? Why wouldn't he? If you're a good defensive coordinator and you come to the 49ers, chances are in a year or two, you'll be a head coach somewhere else. Don't you think Jim Schwartz thinks he's a better coach than Robert Saleh? Don't you think Jim Schwartz is looking at Robert Saleh like the only reason you're on your second head coaching job is because you were around Kyle Shanahan? Put me around Kyle Shanahan, we win the Super Bowl. We don't give up a 10-point lead to Patrick Mahomes with 6 minutes left in the game. I bet that's what he thinks. I bet he'd be into coaching Nick Bosa. They already have Chris Kaserik, who was his defensive line coach in Detroit 15 years ago. Like, it'd be a real easy transition. They could give him, a gift certificate to Chick-fil-A, Jamba Juice. He could be the king of Santa Clara. He could go to Top Golf all he wants. I could take him. The question is Kyle Shanahan, man. It's so easy to give the job to Gus Bradley. He's your friend. He's nice. People like him. He was in charge of the red zone defense, and the red zone defense was actually pretty good. Doesn't this sound exactly like Nick Sorensen? He was popular, one of the guys. And he led the ball meeting. Remember that on Thursday nights, which was all about turnovers, getting the ball, protecting the ball. Someone called him the czar of turnovers. Remember that? That was dumb. And then he gets the job because he has this innate ability to get the team to not only force turnovers but protect the football, and he's friends with everyone. And then he gets the job, and it's like, oh wait, we can't force turnovers anymore. Maybe that was just lucky. Maybe it was a function of the players we had. Maybe it was a function of Steve Wilkes, who's gone, and now you got this chucklehead who's never called plays before, can't force a turnover, can't get off the field on third down or stop anyone in the red zone. I don't like him anymore. He's no longer amusing and charming. I don't like his stories. I don't like his face. It's kind of how that went. So, Gus Bradley, you're popular. People think you're cool and deep. Yeah, and until you're rushing for every single play and getting shredded. I mean, he hasn't been on the best teams. He was in Indianapolis for 3 years. He had DeForest Buckner. Like, why did they get rid of him? They got rid of him for Lou Anarumo, who's not good. So it just felt like the real easy way. Like, hey, we'd like to have Robert Saleh forever, but he's only going to be a one and done. So maybe we can knock off Robert Saleh and no one will notice. But we do. And now, instead of getting some knockoff Jordans from Western Union for $89.99 that you have to wait 4 weeks for, and then they don't fit and they fall apart. I've done that. You can just get the real J's. That's what Schwartz is. I hope Kyle Shanahan, you just have to be secure within yourself to have a coach on your staff who's way older than you and has been doing this since you were in high school and might yell at you or disagree with you. Like, are you cool with that? Because you know who won't do that? Gus Bradley, man. He'll smile. He'll do whatever you tell him to do. He'll let you micromanage him and meddle as much as you want. Jim Schwartz will tell you to get the hell out of there. That's what you need. You need to focus on offense anyway, Kyle, because the last time you had a game, you scored 6 points. You need to focus 100%. Just pretend that you're the offensive coordinator of the team because your offense is getting stale. Let Jim Schwartz be the defensive coordinator and pseudo head coach the way that DeMeco Ryans was and Robert Saleh was. If you're not going to fire Kyle Shanahan, this is the second best thing. Bring in Jim Schwartz. And then if Kyle Shanahan flops, you got a potential replacement in-house in Jim Schwartz, because if the Niners ever replace Kyle Shanahan, I'm done with the offensive play callers. I'm done with the offensive play callers as head coaches. I like Ben Johnson. We'll see if he ever gets over the hump. I feel like these offensive play callers get real close. And then they're the reason their team freaking flops at the end, because they go for it on fourth down when they shouldn't, or they go for two when they shouldn't, or vice versa, or they don't challenge the play, or they do that stuff. So bring in Jim Schwartz if you have the guts. I double freaking dare you. I triple dog dare you, Kyle. If you don't get Jim Schwartz, it's because, in my mind, you didn't want the smoke. Jed, write him a blank check. You need to show that you will do whatever it takes to win a Super Bowl, because your uncle just made you look bad. If you didn't see this has been kind of going viral online. There is this show. I haven't seen it yet. The Rise of the 49ers. It's on Netflix or something, or Amazon Prime, or one of these. I don't even know. But they had like a red carpet debut type of thing last night. And I wasn't there. Should have been. God. But Eddie DeBartolo was there. Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, and Matt Mayoko, OG Niners reporter, who covered some of that era, the tail end, was asking Eddie DeBartolo questions in a group. And the question was kind of like with a laugh, like, hey, like, how frustrating would it be? How frustrating would it be if you ever went 31 years without winning a Super Bowl? Like, what a quaint idea. Where does the time go? And Eddie, without missing a beat, without cracking a smile, just said, I wouldn't. And I love that. Not like, I don't think I would. I wouldn't. And not like it's my opinion. It's like, it's a fact. And it was. He took over the team in 1977. They won in 1981. So it's his 5th season. They win. Then they win 4 years later. Then they win. No, excuse me. Then they win 3 years later. Then they win 4 years later. Then they win the next year. Then they win 5 years later. Then they take the team away from him 6 years later. And my main takeaway isn't that, if he was owning the team, they would have been winning a Super Bowl every 5 years. It just shows you his mindset. If you're not winning the Super Bowl every 5 years, someone has to get fired. It's a failure. That was his mindset. That's why people like me and people who are slightly older are the way that we are. Because Eddie D is nuts. And I love it. You don't understand what it's like to have an owner who's freaking insane and will do whatever it takes to win a championship with that one team, man. He's not looking at his portfolio. He's not looking at his English soccer teams. Like, he's nuts, dude. Nuts. And I love it. Do whatever it takes. He wouldn't pat himself on the back for getting close. He would fired Kyle years ago. And I think it's interesting, like, look at how the Yorks have presented their work the last 31 years. Like, hey, we're one of the more stable franchises, and, players like us, and we've had some consistent success depending on how you define success. And we have this coach that everyone would want. And, no, we haven't gotten over the hump yet, but there's this thing called the salary cap, and there's a lot of luck involved, blah, 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 blah. It's, if you give yourself those outs and excuses, how do you really expect to win the Super Bowl? Maybe you get lucky one time and things break your way, or maybe not. I just feel like what he's trying to say was that, like, if you really want to be a dynasty, have sustained success, and success means winning a Super Bowl. That's the only thing it means. Then it doesn't happen by accident. You have to be really special and be willing to hold yourself to a standard that no one else does. And the Niners aren't that. They aspire to be the Dallas Cowboys or the Green Bay Packers. They don't. The Buffalo Bills have a higher standard than the 49ers. The Seattle Seahawks have a higher standard than the 49ers. The Baltimore Ravens have a higher standard than the 49ers. Pittsburgh Steelers have a higher standard than the 49ers. At least the Yorks. When Eddie DeBartolo was owner, no one had higher standard than the 49ers. No one. Wouldn't happen, he said. But the Yorks, I mean, they'll just give you a whole diatribe about, like, actually, only reason they were good is because there wasn't a salary cap and they could do whatever. There's not really a salary cap anymore. You could figure it out. The Eagles do. They just put the void years on at the end, and they spend and spend and spend and spend and spend and spend and spend, and they count on the salary cap to go up down the line. They work it out when they have to. They don't take on $100 million dead cap and say, sorry, we can't do anything, even though we have $45 million in salary cap. You think Eddie would have had a year like last year, where they were like, legitimately in the mix with salary cap space, and you just sit in your hands and say, what was that dude's name? White? Who was that D lineman? I don't even remember his freaking name. 56? Yeah, he's enough. Keon White, that's his name. Let's just get Keon White. Forget Rashid Shaheed. Let's let the Seahawks get Rashid Shaheed. Let's let them be the really aggressive, forward-thinking, spare no expense organization, not us. And I love that just by saying I wouldn't, he puts the pressure on Jed. What are you going to do, Jed? You're entering year 10 with your coach and you got nothing to show for it. Are you really going to let Kyle Shanahan become the longest tenured coach in my franchise's history? Nephew Jed, are you really going to do that? Because I got rid of Bill after 10 years and 3 championships. And I got rid of Seifert after 8 years and 2 championships. And you're just going to sit here and cling to Kyle forever? I wouldn't. Are you better than me? Do you know how to do it better than I don't think so. And he hasn't said anything in like 10 years, dude, on the record. Last time I heard Eddie, he was trying to save Jed during the Chip Kelly year. I interviewed him on the record that year. He was great. And he was like, you know what? I really believe in Jed. And you got to give Chips a chance. And I think they got something going there. Like, God love him. What a great uncle. Then they get Kyle Shanahan. It looks like Jed's figured it out. And Eddie just is quiet, probably rooting for him. He's an Italian. They're so family oriented. I'm sure he's rooting for Jed. But Jed's only half Italian. I don't know if he got the good half. I'm sorry. Only the good half. That God love you, Eddie D. Dimitrov says Omar Cooper Jr. no matter what. I'm not even gonna pretend like I know who that is, but I'll get to know soon. Boxing Fan Times 4 says, what's up with Bullocks? He's not on the team site. Did he join Sala, or does that mean Schwartz is coming in with his own secondary coaches? He's not on the team site anymore? What are you talking about? He's not? Wow. You know, I want to say something. I know Daniel Bullocks. I like Daniel Bullocks. He's a hell of a coach. And I feel like he could have been someone the Niners groomed to be a defensive coordinator. And I don't understand why they didn't. He's been here the whole time. Players love him. You went with Nick Sorensen ahead of Daniel Bullocks. They're clearly never going to promote Daniel Bullocks. So go to Tennessee, man. Robert Saleh will do a much better job accelerating your career than Kyle Shanahan will. That's very interesting. And if Saleh gets Daniel Bullocks, that's a big-time hire for the Tennessee Titans and a big-time loss for the 49ers. Dimitrov says, so now you want to stick to the wide 9 again? What happened to McDonald's hybrid 3-4? I'm saying if Kyle's going to stick with the wide 9, then Jim Schwartz is the best guy. And Jim Schwartz is good no matter what. Like, I would want Jim Schwartz. I would rather have Mike McDonald, but you're not getting Mike McDonald. Jim Schwartz is experienced. He's a hell of a coach. He makes it work. Gizmo Maltese says, what do you think? Trade Mac for a second, draft a center or a guard, get Zach Wilson or Justin Fields and rehabilitate them as backups. Man, Justin Fields would suck on this team, just like he sucks everywhere. Sorry. And Zach Wilson probably would suck on this team too. He already went to the Dolphins. It was awful there. It's the same system. Trade Mac Jones at your own peril, man. You see that Sam Darnold's about to win the Super Bowl, right? You're that comfortable with trading the next backup away? All right, before we move forward, I want to just take a minute to appreciate what the 49ers have not accomplished under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. I mean, we're entering year 10, and we're still talking about what they might do eventually. And like they're Andy Reid, and maybe Andy Reid did this too. But in some bizarro world, the 49ers have a dynasty, multiple championships, and the Chiefs don't. The 49ers did create a dynasty in Kansas City. And they might create one in freaking Seattle, depending on what they do with Sam Darnold. So let's go back and really dissect how the 49ers whiffed on a post-Eddie D dynasty. You hire Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. It's a pretty good hire. They get the second pick in the draft, and they don't take Patrick Mahomes. That's rough. Now, it's not like a fireable offense, although every other team that passed on Patrick Mahomes, the coach and GM have been fired by now. Every other team. So it is kind of a fireable offense. But at the same time, it's not like Mahomes went third and you took him second. A lot of people thought Trubisky was better. I thought Trubisky was better. A lot of people thought Watson was better. But he went 11th. It's not like he was a 6th round pick. He went 11th. Sean Payton saw it. Andy Reid saw it. You didn't. And it's just one of those things that, now you got to face that guy twice in the Super Bowl. So like you set up your main rival. It's your fault. because you weren't interested, because you wanted Kirk Cousins, because you didn't want to do the work and teach him a system, and you went to Texas Tech, and it was too much. Although Sean Payton was in, Andy Reid was in, you weren't. So that puts you in a hole. But despite that original sin of passing on Mahomes and letting the Chiefs get him, you somehow get to the Super Bowl 2 years later against Mahomes, and you're doing it with freaking Jimmy G, who you know sucks. You know he sucks. You went to the NFC Championship game. You took the game out of his hands. You called 8 passes. You won in spite of him. You knew he sucks. And then you went to the Super Bowl. And it wasn't Jimmy's fault that they lost. It was Kyle's fault. They were winning. He stopped running the ball. Debo was killing it. Raheem Mostert was killing it. You went away from them. You put the game in Jimmy's hands, which was incredible because you wouldn't do that in the NFC Championship game. He blew it. You lost. Defense was gassed. Gave up a bunch of points. You got destroyed in the fourth quarter. You lose a game you should have won. And it's like, okay, happens. They could have lost that Super Bowl and still gone on to be a dynasty. Because coming off that loss, you should have known what Jimmy was. Like, if the Seahawks have a game in a week, like the Niners did against the Chiefs, where they're up late and then they completely fold, and Drake May goes for 21 points in the fourth quarter, and Sam Darnold sucks. You don't think they might pivot away to a different quarterback in like a month? They might. So that's what happened to the Niners. Jimmy G fell on his face and Kyle fell on his face. And then, in spite of all that, Tom Brady, who's getting pushed out by Bill Belichick, the non-Hall of Famer that he is, we'll talk about that in a minute. Belichick's pushing this guy out because he thinks he can do it without Brady. So Brady's like, hey man, I can't really play for New England anymore. They think I'm washed. I'm from the Bay. I kind of like what you got going on over there, even though you just tricked off a Super Bowl. I think I'd like to play for you and help you get over the hump. And Kyle's like, I think you're washed too. We're going to stick with Jimmy. One of the worst all-time decisions. And so they stuck with Jimmy, who still sucked. Like, you knew that. And he got hurt. And Tom Brady immediately won the Super Bowl with the Bucs, who didn't have as good of a team as the Niners on paper. It was close. But the Niners were literally in the Super Bowl without Tom Brady. You add him to that team. I'm thinking the next year they win instead of Tampa. I'm just saying. But no, you stuck with Jimmy. And then the next year you're like, all right, okay, now we don't like Jimmy anymore. Now we're making a change. And it's like, all right, well, Stafford's available. And they're like, we got to think about that one. And the Rams are like, okay, we don't. We're going to get Stafford. And then I was like, damn, we should have done that. You know what? Let's do the next best thing. Let's trade for Deshaun Watson. And then 800 allegations later, they're like, damn. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's go to plan C. Is Aaron Rodgers available? And the Packers are like, no. And they're like, oh, damn. They're like, all right. What are we going to do? Let's trade up to the third pick in the draft and then figure out who we want. Do you guys like that? You like that? And they're like, yeah, let's do it. They trade up to number 3. They have no idea who they want. Rumors are Kyle wanted Mac Jones, who would have been available before them trading up. They take Trey Lance. It's the worst pick in franchise history. They give away 3 first-round picks in the third. That's why they're so kind of mediocre right now, because of that trade. But in spite of that, they save it all the next year in 2026 by trading for Christian McCaffrey and drafting Brock Purdy. Just like a gift from the football gods that they didn't deserve because of all their football sins. And yet they give them another opportunity. You missed on freaking Brady. You missed on Stafford. It's okay. Here's little Peter Pan over here, who's excellent, and Christian McCaffrey, who's like the greatest player you've had since Jerry Rice, or one of them. Go forth and win a Super Bowl. And then, Brock Purdy, terrible, his arm gets mangled, but they go back the next year. They have the best team in the league by far. They have 9 of the top 100 players in the league. You're going up against a frumpy Chiefs team that the next year would get absolutely emasculated by the Eagles. And you lose. You freaking lose again to a team with no Tyreek Hill. old Travis Kelce. And you lose again with a lead in the second half when you stop running the ball. Jake Moody missed a freaking extra point. He was on the team. Had you just not had Jake Moody, you might have won that Super Bowl. Had you just known the rule in overtime, you might have won that Super Bowl. That might have been the most talented team to not win a Super Bowl. Top 5. I mean, the Patriots had one. It's up there. And then you lose the Super Bowl. And instead of like, it's like we did this last time. You know, instead of going like all in with this quarterback who just lost the Super Bowl, maybe we just keep our options open. Maybe we trade the guy who lost the Super Bowl. Maybe we trade the guy, get a bunch of first-round picks, and pivot to someone cheaper. Imagine if they had traded Jimmy Garoppolo after he lost the Super Bowl in 2019. That could have been the move that put him over the hump. Trade Jimmy for like, what was he worth back then? 2 firsts? 3? I don't know. People thought he was good. Get Brady, and then you're good. Trade Brock, keep Darnold, and you're good. No, you let Darnold go. You keep Brock. You go 6-11. Then you give him money. Incredible. Now Darnold's about to win the Super Bowl, and you're about to trade Mac Jones. And with your luck, he's going to win a Super Bowl before you will too. So the Niners have been very generous in setting up other teams. You set up the Rams. McVay would not be a champion without the Rams. Not only did you give Stafford to the Rams, but then you gave up a 10-point lead in the NFC Championship game to Stafford and McVay so they could win it. That was generous. If it wasn't for Kyle, Andy Reid would still be the choker who has gotten close a lot of times and won one Super Bowl over his former team. That the only reason people think Andy Reid's among the all-time greats is because of Kyle. Otherwise, he'd be the same guy he was in Philly. So what the Niners accomplished, if you look at it one way, it's kind of impressive how close they've been for 10 years. And if you look at it another way, it's kind of depressing what they squandered. And we're thinking like, all right, well, how many more years before they figure it out again? Like, they had their shot. They had their team. Now they have to build another one. Can they? Just because they built the one doesn't mean they can build another one. I mean, there was a lot of luck that went into the first one, right? The 5th round tight end, the 7th round quarterback, the Washington franchise, like giving Trent Williams cancer or whatever happened over there, and the Niners getting him for a 3rd round pick. A lot of things had to break the Niners' way. Hey, but now they could get Jim Schwartz. Take some supers. Super time. Jonathan something says, are there any rumblings for players you actually think SF would consider trading for this offseason? What I've heard is Jordan Addison. The Niners seem to be like real intent on improving their wide receiver group, which is fine, but like I think the offensive line is a lot more important in their running game. Suki Pazuki says, are injuries constant due to the scheme? Nah, it's because of the EMFs. Didn't you hear? No, for real. I'm going to interview a scientist a week from yesterday, 6 days, Tuesday. Stay tuned. I'm also going to be participating in a pro-am shotgun golf tournament a week from Friday, and Jerry Rice is going to be there. I'm going to be in that at TPC Harding. Let's go. Suki Pazuki, member for 47 months. Thank you. Dimitrov says Omar Cooper Jr. is the new Debo from IU. All right, man. Fine. Debo is cool. Sir Molly Mall says Xavier Harris DT from Ole Miss, 6'8", 330, paired with Collins can be Buckner and Armstead again. Add Chubb from Miami are moves to make the front 7 great again. Make the front 7 great again. I love that. All day, every day. Kim says, Grant, why is Brock always getting a pass? If I'm not mistaken, he has the 7th largest contract in the NFL. Shouldn't he be able to carry the franchise? I mean, I was talking about this with my friend Kevin. They were playing golf. Like, it's the same situation with the Packers and the Cowboys. Like the Cowboys are spending all this money on Dak Prescott. Is he really good? Yeah. Is he better than Sam Darnold? Yeah. Would I rather have Sam Darnold on his contract than Dak Prescott on his? Yeah, not even a question. It's really hard to put together a good team around. You can't. It's just you can't. When you're spending that much money on a quarterback, he either doesn't have the weapons or he doesn't have the defense. It's one or the other. For the Chiefs, like they have Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback maybe of all time. One of them. They gave him this money. All of a sudden, bye Tyreek Hill, bye explosive offense. Defense was still good, but the offense has stunk for years. Why? Because of his contract, and he's the best. So why would it be any different with the Packers and Dak, the Niners and Brock, the Packers and Jordan Love, the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence? I mean, all these contracts are basically bad. And you're asking a quarterback to make up for something that he really can't, especially when you have quarterbacks like Darnold who are really good on teams that are freaking loaded. That's why I'm against it. That's why I'm against paying, even if it's like Josh Allen, even if it's Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I guess you make the exception for Patrick Mahomes, but like all the money that the Bills have paid Josh Allen, they haven't even gotten to a Super Bowl yet, and their roster's trash. If they could draft better, it wouldn't be an issue. But no one drafts that well. No one even hits 500 in the draft. Nick H says Super Bowl teams avoiding the substation is a bad look. Well, they were never gonna. I'm trying to find words. They did this Super Bowl thing at Levi's 10 years ago. I know you guys might have been young, but no one practiced at Levi's before the Super Bowl when they hosted it there. It was the same thing. But yeah, it is a bad look, and they're going to have to answer for it. I want to say something. If the 49ers ever move on from Kyle Shanahan, I would be in favor of a defensive coach to replace him. And I feel like I've had this epiphany maybe recently, a week ago. Maybe I'm overreacting to the current Super Bowl. But I think it's fair to say that calling offensive plays is difficult. And it's hard to do it well unless you give your 100% focus to it. That means when the defense is on the field, your defense is on the field, you're sort of planning, sequencing your next drive. Not just thinking, what am I going to call on the first play? Like, no, what am I trying to set up? How am I going to get to the end zone? That's what the best ones do. It's what Kyle does. It's what Sean Payton does. It's what Andy Reid does. It's what Sean McVay does. Sean Payton. Which Sean did I say? So if that's what you have to do to be a great offensive coordinator, I would just rather you be the offensive coordinator. If you're looking at your play sheet, if your mind is elsewhere and you're thinking about the next drive while the defense is on the field, while special teams is on the field, by definition, you're not a head coach, even if you have the job. And you could hire someone to be like the game management coordinator, but like, what's a game management coordinator? That's the head coach. That's your job. And I feel like all of these guys, from Sean Payton to Sean McVay to Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, none of them do a good job with game management. I mean, why did the Broncos lose a couple of days ago? Because Sean Payton didn't understand that he needed to like get as many points as he could before the freaking avalanche came down. And he went for it on fourth down with his backup quarterback. Like, thanks, dude. I'm sure the play was great and you had a whole sequence planned, but that was a horrendous decision and you're the reason they lost. You're the reason they lost because of that game management decision. And then Sean McVay, like, you didn't challenge that catch by Cooper Kupp. You didn't go for it late when you shouldn't. You didn't go for too late when you should have. You're largely the reason you lost that game. And what I feel about defensive coaches is that they don't have to plan their calls a drive in advance. They're looking at the offense, trying to figure out how to match up. Okay, they're in base. What do we want to be in? They're in a bunch set. What's the situation? It's first down and second down. Okay, we'll blitz on third down, or we just want to play coverage here. It's not the same. And so I feel like you're much more in the moment. You're much more present as a defensive coach than as an offensive coach. As an offensive coach, you're a chess player planning many moves ahead. As a defensive coach, you're just trying to figure out what the offense is doing. And I feel like that allows you to be a better game manager, be more present about when to go for it, when to get the momentum, how to not give it back, when to, when to actually challenge. Kyle's never gets that right. He actually has someone else who's in charge of that. That should be him. You could argue that the reason the Niners lost in Philly in this NFC Championship game before Brock messed up his arm was Kyle didn't challenge a clear drop by Devontae Smith. And his players saw it. Talanoa Hufanga saw it, ran over to him, said challenge it, and he didn't. I don't know. Maybe if they had gotten the ball back there instead of giving up a touchdown, things happen differently. Butterfly effect. I don't know. And we're all chasing the next Bill Walsh. He was the greatest, one of one. He could do both. Maybe. I mean, I wasn't even there. But his successor wasn't Mike Holmgren. It was Seifert. And George Seifert was freaking great. George Seifert never won fewer than 10 games in a season. George Seifert had good offenses. You can find play callers who are not leaders of men. They're around. The Josh McDaniels of the world. They exist. It's harder to find legit leaders who are excellent coordinators as well. And those are often defensive guys. So if Kyle has to go, I'm open to looking on the defensive side. I want the next Mike McDonald. The Ravens getting Jesse Minter, love that hire. Love that hire. That's where the league's going right now. And that's another reason I want Jim Schwartz here. Because if Kyle can't get it done, you got your replacement down the hall. All day, every day, Kim says, but there's a big group that always makes mistakes for why Brock wasn't successful, but then turns around and just straight dogs out other teams' quarterbacks. Yeah, that's one guy and his followers. Oh, Nick H says Greenlaw said Sean's practices harder than Kyle's. He did say that, huh? Be interesting to actually watch both practices. Wish I could. Here's something that's interesting to me. I would like to ask this question to John Lynch at the combine in a month, but they're so focused on improving, their pass rush and their wide receivers. They need to get more speed. But the 49ers have a run-first system. I think it's pretty obvious that if you can shut down Kyle Shanahan's run game, you shut down his offense. Because his passing game is mostly a play-action passing game that works in conjunction with the run game. And if there is no threat of a run, then you can keep two deep safeties and shut all that down like the Seahawks do, and there's no play-action openings over the middle, then Kyle has to go to his drop-back passing game, which is just awful. I mean, it's pure progression, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It leads to a guy standing still trying to get from one side of the field to the other and getting sacked and interceptions, and it's all bad, his passing game. His running game is good. His play-action game is great because it looks just like his running game. So for him to have a successful offense, the running game needs to be good. So my question to John, to Kyle, to the 49ers is, how are you going to improve your running game? How are you going to do it? Let me get some stats for you. Last year, the 49ers averaged 3.8 yards per carry. That was 30th out of 32 teams. They were abysmal running the ball. And they're not going to change their running back. We know that. Christian's coming back. So if you're not going to swap out the running back, what are you going to do? How are you going to tell me, why should I expect 4 yards a carry next year? I mean, league average is like 4.5. How are you going to get to league average? What are they going to do? Are they going to do anything? Are they going to add another running back? I mean, Brian Robinson Jr. is gone. You don't like Isaac Guerrero. What do you think of Jordan James? Are you going to get someone else? Will Jed even let you? I mean, you have the highest paid running back in the league. Will they let you make further investments in the running back position, or do they feel like we're already spending enough? We've already dedicated enough of our salary cap to that highly volatile position where injuries are so prevalent. Like, maybe try Jordan James. I mean, you could give Jordan James a shot. He has 6 carries that you can look from. I like him. Kind of reminds me of Blake Corum, but what if he's not it? Then you're going to have another year of no run game. And I mean, what if Christian gets hurt and he can't give you those 3.5 yards a carry? Then what are you going to do? Just not even run the ball at all? Get Brock hurt? I mean, I would imagine they're going to add something to the offensive line, and maybe adding some speed at wide receiver opens things up and creates some space. But if they don't do something here, they're in trouble. And I think that it's not enough to just improve the offensive line and add wide receivers. They have to be honest that it's a running back issue too. And while I'm not saying like trade Christian McCaffrey, I'm not saying don't trade Christian McCaffrey because, what would Bill Walsh do? Shouldn't that be a question that the Niners ask themselves every day? What would Bill Walsh do? What would George Seifert do? What would Eddie DeBartolo do? And the answer with Christian McCaffrey is trade his ass. I mean, nothing personal, but they trade him. That's what they would do. So but the Niners won't because it's the Yorks, and they're going to hold on to Kyle Shanahan for 80 years if they have to. But short of trading Christian, what's the best way to use him? Or I mean, if you bring in another really good running back, what's cool about Christian is you could have him on the field at the same time. Now, God forbid you'd have to take the fullback off the field. But like if the Niners had prime Raheem Mostert, they could have Mostert and Christian on the field at the same time, or they could split carries, split drives, and they'd just be a way better team because Christian is a lot of things. Fast isn't really one of them anymore. He's not getting to the edge. It'd be nice to pair him with someone who could and catch passes. Although he doesn't have to, man, because Christian's your third down back. You just need a change of pace back who's nothing like Brian Robinson. In retrospect, that was a horrendous addition, knowing what Christian McCaffrey is now, which is, as a running back, a guy who's really better suited between the tackles and outside the tackles. So the Niners only have so many draft picks. I'd like to see them use one of their important ones on a running back. Although this is why it's so hurtful to your team to not play rookies at all. They still need a running back. And it's like, all right, so should we draft one in round 1 or round 2 or round 3 or round 4 or round 5? I don't know, man. If you knew how good Jordan James was or had an idea, then that could inform your decision of where to take a running back. But you don't know how good Jordan James is because you didn't play him until the very, very, very end of the season. You got 6 carries and they look good. But I mean, are you not going to take a running back because you gave Jordan James 6 carries and he averaged 4.5 yards a carry? I mean, you gave Isaac Guerrero like 80 carries as a rookie, and then he came in his second year, and you hated him. You're like, forget everything we ever thought we liked about you. You're dead to us. Get off the field, Isaac. This is so important for. I mean, obviously they got to bring in Jim Schwartz, and when they're really good, they have a great defense. But in addition, when they're really good, they have a great running game, and they haven't had a good running game in 2 years. What are they going to do? New left guard, new center, that would be great. But you got to bring in Roger Craig's making the push to get in the Hall of Fame. Christian McCaffrey might get in the Hall of Fame one day. He's had a lot of injuries and he doesn't have necessarily the counting numbers to get there. But what was I saying? I just started losing my train of thought mid sentence these days. Roger Craig. Da-da-da. Oh well. It'll come back to me. It doesn't matter. What was I talking about? Oh, okay. Roger Craig, great running back. One of the greatest running backs in franchise history. They didn't hold on to him into his mid-30s sentimentally. They got rid of him. And they got Ricky Waters. The Niners need to be looking for their Ricky Waters. Whoever, edit out that part where I forgot what I was talking about. No, I'd do that myself. They need to look for Ricky Waters. Your Roger Craig is getting a little old. Where's the next one? And the cool thing about Ricky Waters is he had a very similar skill set. He played receiver and running back at Notre Dame. Very good receiver out of the backfield for the Niners. He's a hell of a player. Then he went to Philly. Then he went to Seattle. Hell of a player. Niners need to go find their Ricky Waters. Stop being so sentimental with your players. Oh, this guy needs to end his career on the 49ers. No, the hell he doesn't. Not if Eddie D and George Seifert were running things. M. Rauda says, Grant, They need to get Jim Schwartz, no excuses. Kyle gets too much in his head in big games, not crapping on him because before him, Niners were a joke. I agree. All day, every day, Kim says, for people who don't understand what I was saying, I think Brock has been handed everything and now times are tough. There's excuses for him. Well, there won't be many more excuses for him if he keeps not winning the Super Bowl, making all this money. I have a couple more things I want to talk about, but first, I've got to shout out this week's sponsor, Mint Mobile. Now that the holidays are over, you might be feeling like you've got a big spending hangover. The drinks, the holiday food, the gifts, it all adds up. Luckily, Mint Mobile is here to help you cut back on overspending on wireless this January with 50% off unlimited premium wireless. Mint Mobile's end of year sale is still going on, but only until the end of the month. Cut out big wireless's bloated plans and unnecessary monthly charges with 50% off 3, 6, or 12 months of unlimited. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. This January, quit overspending on wireless with 50% off unlimited premium wireless. Plans start at $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Cohn. That's mintmobile.com/COHN. Limited time offer. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months. Plan required, $15 a month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com. I'm so good at reading. I was that guy when they were like, who wants to read this passage in school? I'm like, ooh, me. I want to read it. Because I'm going to be doing Mint Mobile ads when I'm older, and I want practice. Thank you, Mint Mobile. Check them out. All right, let's do some like NFL at large news. This tickled me, man. Some people are all like up in arms about it. It freaking made me laugh. Hold on. Someone just texted me. Yeah. All right, I'm going to get back to you. All right. Everyone got really upset about this. Bill Belichick isn't in the Hall of Fame? How can you not elect Bill Belichick as the first? This calls into question the entire Hall of Fame. How are we supposed to take this seriously? It really makes me happy how upset people are that Bill Belichick isn't a first ballot Hall of Famer and he might have to wait till the second ballot. Good. I hope you're just as upset as he is. And what I would have to say is all the people who are up in arms, including his girlfriend and him, is that shouldn't have cheated. Shouldn't have cheated. This is what you get for cheating. You thought that wasn't going to catch up to you one day? It caught up to Barry Bonds, caught up to Roger Clemens. Now that he's not in the Hall of Fame, I'm sure he's going to get in. But you could make such a compelling argument that he should not be in the Hall of Fame. So for the sake of it, just to piss off people, I want to do it. Why Bill Belichick should not be in the Hall of Fame. Let me get his numbers up. This is fun. I like doing stuff like this. So, little known fact about Bill Belichick. He was a head coach before he was in New England. He was a head coach in Cleveland for 5 seasons. And his record was 36-44. He wasn't good. He won 11 games in 94 and then stunk the rest of the time and got fired. And you know why? And you'd be like, okay, well, Cleveland sucks. That's why he was unsuccessful. But then look at what Belichick did post Brady in New England and at North Carolina. He was a joke. So you take pre-Brady Belichick as a head coach, post-Brady Belichick as a head coach. That's 3 different examples. Cleveland, New England at the end, and North Carolina. Although he's probably not getting judged on North Carolina. But it's all been bad. Then he goes to New England and lucks into Tom Brady. First year there, 2005 and 11, just like Cleveland. Then gets the greatest quarterback of all time, one of them. Not that he knew he was going to be that good. And they go on this incredible run. We all know how many rings they have. during this run with the literal best quarterback of all time, that wasn't enough for Belichick. That wasn't enough of an advantage. He needed to cheat too, allegedly. He needed to videotape other teams' walkthroughs before Super Bowls and videotape their signs, allegedly. Was punished for this. Did this multiple times and got caught. Can you imagine the stuff he didn't get caught doing? And then, as if he should have just been grateful. This product of Tom Brady, who could have gone anywhere. It's not like they traded up for him in round one like Andy Reid did. And you get you get caught cheating, and you still get to keep your job. In spite of all that, this dude really thought he was the reason they were so good in New England. He was trying to push out Tom Brady for years. He drafted Jimmy Garoppolo in the second round, held on to him, told people how freaking great he was. And then finally Kraft was like, you got to get rid of him. Brady's still good. They get rid of him. Clearly regret it. And then one down year in 2019 and you push him out. You tell everyone he's done. Guess what? You were wrong. He goes to Tampa, wins a Super Bowl, and you do nothing with the Patriots. You embarrass yourself. You show that you don't know the first thing about personnel or quarterback play. You just got lucky once. It's not like Joe Gibbs, who won with 3 different quarterbacks, or Bill Walsh, who developed 2 quarterbacks. You got lucky once. And then the rest of your career as a head coach has been a humiliation show. And it's like, how could he not be a Hall of Famer? Well, why don't we compare him to freaking George Seifert? George Seifert's on the Hall of Fame. George Seifert won 2 Super Bowls as a head coach. I mean, let me get his numbers up. George Seifert, his numbers are stupid as a head coach. They don't make any sense. With the 49ers, his record was 98-30. 98-30 in 8 years. Are you kidding me? 766 win. I mean, one of the greatest of all time. In terms of that's 8 years. He won 2 Super Bowls with the Niners. He won 3 as an assistant. Like, yeah, he inherited the team, but so did Bill Cowher. Bill Cowher inherited the Steelers from Chuck Noll, won 1 Super Bowl late in his tenure in the Super Bowl. I mean, in the Hall of Fame. He's in the Hall of Fame, but Seifert's not. Why is Seifert not? If Seifert had just retired in 96, I bet he'd be in the Hall of Fame right now. But he went to Carolina 3 years later, 99, 2000, 2001, went 8-8, 7-9. No shame in that. But then he went 1-15 in 2001. That was his last season. That's why he's not in the Hall of Fame. Because people remember that 1-15, and that matters. And I think he should be in the Hall of Fame, but that's why he's not. So if you can invalidate your entire resume at the end, how did Bill not how did he not invalidate his resume with the cheating, with the pushing Tom Brady out prematurely, with building a horrendous team afterward, and then going to college and being even worse? I mean, if George Seifert can't get in, I think Bill Belichick should have to wait. I don't feel empathy for him. He's happy, man. He's got a girlfriend. He's good. He's good. But I think it's freaking hilarious. And doesn't bother me. Not one bit. But you know what does bother me? Shedeur Sanders being elected into the Pro Bowl. I don't think the NFL understands how bad this is for their sport. Because it's not, look, no one watches the Pro Bowl anyway. Okay. So I think the reason they want him there is that maybe people will watch because he's such a draw, because he's so polarizing. And I think they're probably right. I would imagine that their ratings will have a small uptick because Shedeur Sanders is there. But now you've invalidated the Pro Bowl honor forever. Now there's no point in telling me, well, this guy went to 3 Pro Bowls. So Shedeur Sanders went to a Pro Bowl. Matthew Stafford has gone to 3 Pro Bowls and Derek Carr has gone to 4. It's now the stupidest award of all time. Which sucks because I'm sure there's a lot of like great players who are retired or still in the league who have Pro Bowls on their resume, Pro Bowl jerseys, Pro Bowl helmets, and they're proud of them. And they're in their little shrine at home. And they got them signed by their little teammates. And now they look at there like, man, this means nothing. Shedeur Sanders is going to have the same thing in his shrine at home that his dad paid for. This one bothers me. I like the idea of Shedeur Sanders, and I feel like he should, I feel like he kind of got screwed over because of who his dad is, but this is the opposite of him getting screwed over because of who his dad is. This is him going full Nepo, and it's a partial Nepo. It doesn't sit well with me. Shedeur should have been like, you know what? I'm not going. This is bad. I didn't earn it. I'll be back next year when I earn it. That would have been a good move. It would have helped him beat the allegations, the Nepo baby allegations. You can't take handouts when you're already seen as someone who was born on third base. So, again, as someone who never watches the Pro Bowl, do they even tackle any? They don't even tackle anymore, right? Not that they ever did, but is it two-hand touch? Is it flag? Is it football, or do they play pickup basketball? I don't know. But now you can't say like, well, you need a Pro Bowl center. Isn't it funny, though, that the Browns couldn't hire a head coach, and then Shedeur Sanders gets put into the Pro Bowl as an alternate, and like 3 days later, Todd Monken raises his hand and says, I'll take this job. Why? Because they have a Pro Bowl quarterback? That was the tipping point for you? I don't understand. Bill Kennedy says, I lose my train of thought too, but I'm 77. I don't really have an excuse. Keeps happening to me, man. I've been sleeping better, though. I don't think you guys care about that. I don't sleep so good during the season, man. It's all the adrenaline. Oop. Hold on. There we go. All right, let's do some solo prize picks. Some Jim Schwartz prize picks. Sam Darnold, 229.5 passing yards. I'm going to say more. The Patriots have a good run defense, and they're going to put the game in his hands. And he might throw picks, but I think he's going to throw for yards. But I could be wrong. Drake May, 222.5 passing yards. I'm going to say less. He's been playing like not good, and he's going up against a great defense. So they might find some creative ways to move the ball and score points, but I don't think it's going to be a lot of passing yards. Rushing yards, Kenneth Walker, I'm going to say less. That's going up against a really good run defense. And again, I think they're going to try to put the game in Sam Darnold's hands. Ramondre Stevenson, I'm going to say more because that's a very, methodical, grounded pound type of offense, and they're going to run and run and run because they don't have receivers. Receiving yards, Jackson, Smith, and Jigba, I think it's going to be less. They have really good corners. I think that it's going to be more of a Rashid Shaheed game. And then Keyshawn Booty. What do I feel about Keyshawn Booty? I don't really have a feeling about that. He had 6 yards in the last game. That's scary. Huh. No, how about Hunter Henry, 37.5? Oh. Damn, dude. This offense sucks. I'm going to say Hunter Henry's going to have more. Just because he's on my fantasy team, and he actually was pretty good this year. And I know that. Okay, I'm putting, how much am I putting on it? Should I put 5 on it? I got 5 on it. No, I'm putting $1,000 to win 40,000. No, I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it chill. I'm only gonna put 1,000 down, but I'm gonna flex it. That way, if I get a couple wrong, I can still make a couple ducats here and there. But I'm going for the big play, the flex play. Submitting the lineup. Download Prize Picks yourself. Use promo code Cohn, COHN. Play $5, get $50 instantly in lineups when you use that promo code COHN. Yes, right? That's what I did. I just dropped a G. All right, guys. It's been so nice. So nice to be here with you today. I really enjoyed it. Been one of my favorite shows ever with you guys. And I really hope that you get Jim Schwartz. I hope that you guys get a Lombardi trophy one day because I don't care. I'm going to have fun one way or another. I'm going to make these jokes one way or another. And if they don't win the Super Bowl, it makes the jokes easier and more plentiful. So, hey, Jed, stop making my life so easy. YMG Love Blue says, is Purdy contract friendly to the team in the last 2 years? All right, let's look at it real quick. Brock Purdy over the cap. And then I'm out. In 2025, his cap number was 9.1 million. He took up 2.7% of the cap. That's cheap. In 2026, his cap number is 24.3 million, taking up 7.7% of the cap roughly. That's not bad. It's pretty good. 2027, his cap number is 30.8. That's 9.9% of the cap. That's right on the borderline. That's still pretty good. So the next 3 years aren't too bad. As long as the Niners take advantage and use the cap space, that's kind of like Sam Darnold territory. It's 2028 when he jumps up to 57 million, 17% of the cap. That's impossible. You can't win like that. And then 2029, 72 million. 2030, 64 million. Like, you got to restructure or cut at that point. That's where they're at. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll be back tomorrow. Stay tuned. Have a good